Hey guys, welcome back. We're here with another quick tip on dashboard creating. So for today's little tip, we're going to talk about how we create dashboards with incorporation of images. So first things first, you're seeing Tableau on the screen. Let's switch gears a bit. I'm going to go to PowerPoint. So when I go to PowerPoint, notice that I already have some images set up. Um, I'm going to go through each one. The theme for today is just like politics, the government. Let's say we're going to do a dashboard on the branches of the government. I have some pictures here. I have the White House, I have the Capitol, Supreme Court, and then simple graphic that's been kind of blurred on voting. Right. So let's go back to the first image, which is the White House. Notice how I've made the White House image the full slide in PowerPoint, and I've also added some shapes on top as well. And the shapes themselves, I've basically created black shapes like squares and rectangles with an outline of a white line. But I've also, in a sense, modified the transparency so you can still see the makeup of the whole image. Basically, this sandbox here, this little shape, will serve as our kind of space or real estate for visualizations when we do apply visualizations to these images on a fixed orientation. So next one, the capital, you can have a really nice kind of time series graph going across here or a bar graph. I put this triangle here, but I'm not going to keep that shape when I create the dashboard. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I put that there as a placeholder. Maybe we can use the image's blue background to actually overlay a fixed visual that's going down at a diagonal. So perhaps we apply a fixed tile on top of this image that goes down as such, right? So let's say, for instance, we do something to the effect of, let's say, top top senators by age, or let's say the top senators and House of Representatives by state, or where they were born. Something to the effect where you're sorting it, right? You're going to sort it descending order from top to bottom. So your descending order, more likely, the top one will have the largest amount of width real estate that you have to take up. And then as you go down in sort order, you don't need that much real estate. You just go down in that diagonal. So, kind of some creative ways where you can incorporate the real estate of the image, the background. In this case, we have a great blue backdrop here that you can incorporate with an overlaid fixed view with no background on top of this. Okay, next one, Supreme Court. You can have a really great marginal visual here, maybe by month, or maybe we look at a long scatter if the axis on the x-axis is much wider than the y-axis. You can also, let's say, for instance, we wanted to do parameters, right? That communicates with different data sources or different views. You can, if you already have that in mind when you're planning your schematic for this dashboard, you can apply some backgrounds for those parameters as well. All right, next thing, let's say we're going to do some voting statistics. I put an image there. I blurred it some, but you could still obviously see that it says vote, and there are vote buttons or voting buttons. So I like this backdrop here because there's not really much attention to the image once you put the visuals, but you can still kind of see that it says vote, right? I have some space there for parameters or filters, and then you can have these parameters and filters correspond with whatever you overlay on these little virtual sandboxes here. Okay, so we have those four kind of standard images that we've played around with. One thing I did here was you have all your shapes. I basically clicked every shape and I grouped them. So all you do is you click every shape with control and left click, and then once you right click, you hit group. It groups them all together. And then I can do is I can actually hover over everything and right click and save as picture. And you can save it as a JPEG. And now everything that you were overlaid on the original image is now entirely one complete picture. And you can actually use that in the dashboard creation. So now let's go to Tableau. I have a fixed custom size dashboard canvas. I made it a custom size of 800 by 1600. I'm going to start first by tiling a vertical object. Okay, so there's my vertical object. It's overlaying the whole dashboard. Now let's start with the first image. Put it over there. I'm going to fit the image. Let's start first with the White House one we created. Here we go. Let's add the rest of them. So let me see. We'll go all the way to the bottom. Image. All right. If I choose, I'm going to choose the capital one. Fit it. You always want to make sure you fit it. Okay. Next image. Choose. We'll do the Supreme Court one. Fit it. Apply. Next image. We'll fit that one, and that'll be the voting one that we modified a bit. Okay. Let's go back to that vertical container, and we're going to make sure we distribute all the contents evenly. And then some cleanup here on the dashboard. I do want to add like a background on the original overlay. So let's do a background of black. But I'm going to fix opacity a bit. Okay. And on the padding, I'm actually going to eliminate all the padding, make all the sides equal. That'll kind of bring the images more up front. And then as well, I also want to mess with the padding on the images themselves. Okay. Let's see real quick. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit center on those as well. Make them more uniform down the line, centered. So yeah, now we go to screen. Notice how you now have these uniformed images, and you can overlay all your content on these pre-planned shapes. Obviously, we wouldn't have that. That was just a placeholder for you guys. But then you can overlay the visual on top right here, going down. Like say if you're sorting and descending down, make sure that the background is null, so that you can actually still see the photo, but actually see the visuals on top of that. Same thing for here. You can utilize this real estate here if you want. Parameter or filter boxes that controls the visual down there. Let's say you want that voting statistics. You can all have that there. Um, Real quick, kind of shows you how to create the long form dashboard with images, and you now have a set dashboard. Obviously, if you're here, you want to have statistics that are very specific to the president, whether it's like presidents over the years, certain presidency. Over here, we have the capital, so you want to maybe look at uh, bills that were voted on throughout the years in the Senate or in the House of Representatives. We have the Supreme Court down here, so maybe the history of the Supreme Court throughout the years, maybe the current Supreme Courts and some Supreme Court justices and their statistics. And then, of course, you're voting back down here. Some very, you can have some very quick, summarized, aggregated voting statistics here, either for the last election or throughout the years. But these images kind of set the table for what you're going to talk about, basically. So it adds that extra kind of um, infographic type of spin on a dashboard that you're creating. Makes it a little bit more fun. It kind of, as a developer, it forces you to make sure that you plan things ahead of time. Obviously, you wouldn't be talking about uh, House of Representatives and senators over a backdrop of the White House, right? That would look kind of weird to me. So, do you want to make sure you plan things in advance? If you're going to use images as backgrounds, then it would be best to use PowerPoint to create slides and maybe add shapes overlaid over them, and then save them as a picture, and then apply the picture into the dashboard like this. Um, I did this with a Tour de France dashboard that I created on my public profile. I liked it a lot. That I thought about a lot because I wanted to make sure that all the visuals I overlaid really fit nicely. So I went back the whole process of creating in PowerPoint, adding shapes, putting it in Tableau. I went through that back and forth multiple times just because I wanted to make sure I got it right. And another thing that I did differently with the Tour de France that I did here real quick on this scenario was I made sure that I got images that had more of a darker contrast, a darker background, because I knew I wanted to overlay it on a dark dashboard background. My background in that scenario was black, so I made sure that I messed around with the images, made sure there was a dark background already to begin with. If it wasn't, then I added kind of some image artistic effects in PowerPoint where you can kind of add this blackish hue on the corners of the images. And basically, what that does, it just kind of blends in the images to the dark background, and it makes it all one uniform dashboard. So that's what I really liked about that. Took a lot for me to kind of put that all together, and then of course mess with the visuals, overlay them. But best best things to take from this quick tip is if you're going to work with images, make sure that it's uniform to what you're talking about. I would recommend working with the images in PowerPoint or another image editor. Applying some shapes over the images are good because it adds attention to those areas of the image, and then that's where you're going to overlay your tiles in a fixed position. So keep this in mind. The images are the only things that are going to be tiled on the dashboard, right? And they're going to be distributed evenly. Now, everything on top of that you're putting in front of the visual of the dashboard will be fixed. So you'll float them over all these individual shapes, and it'll all look uniform across on that image. One thing that helped me was if you go to dashboard, you can actually show your grid, and then I'll overlay all the fixed tiles on top of these boxes. So you make sure they're all uniformed, they're all lined up. That it doesn't kind of look one doesn't look out of whack. So that's those are some quick tips on how to create a long form dashboard with images. Preparing uh, the backdrop, the sandbox canvas with images, so that once you float visuals on top of these shapes, it's all going to fit in nicely. It's going to look like it's part of the image, and someone that's viewing this is going to get a lot out of it. They're going to look at the information you've put together in the worksheets that you've overlaid on the dashboard, but they're also going to have some very nice photos to look at. And make sure that all the images that you've gotten have quick, high resolution, because you are going to, size them to a PowerPoint slide. Obviously, the one I got here for the Capitol is um, not much of a high res, but I'm sure you can find one online that is a better quality. But yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick tip on how to overlay images into a dashboard, how to distribute them evenly, and then these are the only things that are going to be distributed evenly and tiled. So everything else that you overlay on the images will be floating, but you'll have total control and total autonomy of where you want them to be. Uh, Make sure you enable dashboard show grid, and you can line everything up perfectly and show me what you've done. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that you enjoyed this tip. Bye. Thanks.